You're standing in the middle of a packed shopping mall. Bodies brush past you, conversations blend into a low hum that somehow feels deafening. Fluorescent lights glare down, someone's perfume hits you like a wall, and suddenly, your chest tightens, your palms sweat, your brain starts calculating the fastest escape route like you're planning a heist. You tell yourself you're being dramatic, but you can't shake the feeling that you need to get out. Now. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's someone you know who always suggests somewhere quiet or who mysteriously disappears at parties. But here's the thing. This isn't just about being antisocial or grumpy. There's actually a hidden psychology behind why some people can't stand crowded places, and it's way more complex than you think.
Let's start with the overstimulated empath. You know this person. They walk into a crowded room and it's like their nervous system gets hijacked. They don't just see the crowd, they feel it. Every emotion, every tension, every weird vibe in the room seeps into them like there's some kind of emotional sponge. Maybe they catch a couple arguing in the corner and suddenly they feel anxious. Someone's laughing too loud and it grates on them. A stranger looks stressed and now they're stressed too. It's exhausting. Psychologically, these people have what's called high sensory processing sensitivity. Their brains are wired to pick up on subtleties most people miss. In a crowd, that's not a superpower, it's sensory overload. They're not being dramatic when they say they need space. They literally do. Their mind is processing 1,000 inputs at once, and it's draining them faster than a phone on 1% battery. Then there's the control seeker. This is someone who hates crowds, because crowds mean chaos, and chaos means they can't predict what happens next. They like structure. They like knowing where the exits are, what time they'll leave, and that their personal space won't be invaded by a stranger's elbow. In a crowded place, all of that goes out the window. People bump into them, plans change, someone spills a drink, the line is longer than expected, and each little disruption feels like a tiny loss of control. Psychologically, this ties to something called intolerance of uncertainty. These people aren't necessarily anxious about the crowd itself, they're anxious about the unpredictability. Their brain craves order, and a crowd is the opposite of that, so they avoid it, not because they hate people, but because they hate the chaos people bring.
But here's where it gets interesting. There's also the introvert with a social hangover. This person doesn't hate crowds because of noise or chaos. They hate crowds because of the invisible expectation to perform. Think about it. You're at a party, a concert, a busy restaurant. Everyone's talking, laughing, engaging. And if you're quiet, people notice. They ask if you're okay. They try to pull you into conversations. And suddenly, you're not just standing in a crowd. You're expected to be on. That's draining. Introverts recharge in solitude. Being around people, especially lots of people, depletes their social battery fast. And in a crowd, there's no escape, no corner to hide in, no quiet moment to reset. So they start feeling trapped, not by the space, but by the social demands of it. In the longer they stay, the more exhausted they become. It's not shyness, it's not snobbery, it's just how their energy works.
Now, let's talk about the hyper-vigilant observer. This person walks into a crowded place and immediately goes into scan mode. They're watching exits, noting who's standing where, listening for raised voices. They're not paranoid, they're prepared. Maybe they've been through something traumatic. Maybe they've just always been wired this way. But in a crowd, their threat detection system goes into overdrive. Psychologically, this is linked to hypervigilance, often seen in people with anxiety disorders or PTSD. Their brain is constantly asking, "Am I safe?" And in a crowd, the answer feels uncertain. Too many variables, too many people they can't account for, so they avoid it, or they endure it while mentally cataloging every possible risk. It's not about hating people, it's about needing to feel safe, and crowds don't provide that.
And finally, there's the introspective solitude lover. This person doesn't hate crowds out of fear or overstimulation. They just prefer depth over breadth.
They'd rather have one meaningful conversation than 50 shallow ones. They'd rather spend time in their own head than surrounded by noise they don't care about. Crowds feel superficial to them, empty. A bunch of people existing in the same space but not really connecting, and that feels pointless. Psychologically, these people often score high in traits like openness and introspection. They value rich inner experiences, and a crowd doesn't offer that. It offers distraction, surface-level interaction, sensory noise. So they opt out, not because they're antisocial, but because they're selective. They're not missing out, they're choosing differently.
So, which type are you? Or maybe you're a mix. Maybe you recognize someone you know in one of these descriptions. Maybe now you understand why they always leave the party early, or why they prefer hiking alone over going to festivals. The thing is, hating crowded places isn't a weakness. It's not something to fix. It's just a different way of navigating the world. And honestly, once you understand the psychology behind it, it all starts to make sense. So the next time someone bails on a crowded event, maybe cut them some slack. Their brain's just wired differently, and that's okay.